name of the flag, we are the U.S. of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's our future to save, this land of the brave, the U.S. of A. Oh, say just that star spangled banner, yeah, wave for the land of the free, and the home of the brave.
Well, I love that song. Welcome back to another edition of Just Talking with Joe Burdick. I thought I'd try something a little different this time and go live. I have my friend Seth Williams here with me. What we're doing is we're doing a tribute for a Cleveland radio legend. This is the third anniversary of his passing coming up, and we wanted to just give Triv the honor that he deserves by inviting show contributors onto my podcast and tell their favorite stories about Triv. First person I wanted to talk to right now is Seth. Seth was his longtime producer. Seth, welcome to my podcast.
I know this is weird. How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, Seth has his own podcast, and if you don't know or listen to his podcast, what is it, Seth?
The Seth Williams Show.
Seth Williams.
It's that simple. You can go. It's on everything. Monday and Wednesday at 4:00.
Monday and Wednesday at 4:00. You can see it on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitch.
The Seth Williams Show, Rumble, everywhere. CMS Network.
Great. Well, Seth was a longtime producer of Triv. So we're going to do this until either 8:00 or we just run out of things to talk about. But we wanted to honor Triv and invite people in, and we've already got somebody waiting. So Seth and I will go ahead.
Real quick, Joe, I don't know if you know how to use this live thing, because I don't think you've done it live before.
Nope.
Our comments are going to pop up on the side, and don't forget to put those on the screen when you can. So it'll be fun to read some of those comments. Gunner, how
there you
doing?
go, like that.
Yep, simple as that.
All right. And then there you go, Gunner. Hey, good afternoon. So, all right. Well, this next, our first guest, he needs no introduction. Jacob Underwood, welcome.
Wow. Hello, how are you?
He does need some sort of introduction. He's been away from radio for the past 3 years doing some crazy nonsense.
Yeah, I've been in
politician.
radio for 19 months.
Yeah, it's weird.
Crazy to think about.
Well, you look all professional with your background there. So,
Seth, do you notice the background?
I do. Look at that.
Do you see that?
Yeah, look at you. Yeah.
It's that's Carmen. Hold on, where am I at? I'm mirrored here. So that's Carmen, and then you'd be right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you can't help but see Carmen. He takes up the entire screen.
I saw a picture of him lately, and he's not as big. So
I know he lost a lot of weight. His head is still ginormous, though.
He's got to turn around. He'll find it.
Nice.
You like that?
So Jacob, tell us about your favorite memories of Triv.
Oh man.
Tell us how you got introduced to Triv first. I mean, how did you end up being there?
So it was my interview. It was my interview with Ray, and everybody kept telling me, they were like, "Hey, when you go in there, make sure you bring up to Ray that you could do voices, because you could do voices." I'm like, okay, all right. Rob Bailey's telling me, because I give Rob Bailey credit, because a lot of his students, he was a teacher at OMS at the time, and a lot of his students were applying for the job, and he didn't want to show favoritism, but he kind of gave me that hey, you tell them you can do voices, they're going to like you. So I'm in there, I'm talking to Ray, and, Seth, how conversations go with Ray, very short, sweet, and to the point. Okay, thank you. Okay. When he's in business mode. And I go, oh yeah, I can do voices. And he's like, what do you mean you could do voices? I'm like, I could do voices. And he's like, okay, like who? And I go, well, I can do President Trump, and it's not bad. Lots of people like it. They go, wow, look how great he is. It's very good the way that he can talk like President Trump. It's very good. And he's like, oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So, we're doing the walk around, and that's funny. My phone ringed at the same time. So we're doing the walk around, and he takes me into this studio that's behind me, and he goes, hey, Triv, this is Jake, he's one of the interviewers. And Trivy's, hey, how are you? Goes right back to show prep. And Ray goes, oh, Jake can do voices. Oh, really? Yeah. Talk like Trump, talk. And I'm like, hello there, Triv, how are you? Look at this guy working so hard. What a fantastically hardworking guy. Look at him. What a guy. And Triv goes, hey, Jake, when Ray hires you in like a day or two, come in next Wednesday. We got Caliendo. And I'm like, so did I just get hired? What does this mean? And so my first day on the job, because Saturday I worked, because when I started off at TAM, I was just Saturday and Sunday. And the first weekday I worked, it was from noon to like 11. And it was the day that Caliendo was in, and I was shadowing Seth on the board. So that was the first time.
I remember that.
And then a funny Triv story I can think of off the top of my head is, it's not that I don't like Flat Earth Guy. I love Flat Earth Guy. I think he's very entertaining. To come on,
by the way. Yeah.
Is he?
Yes,
he actually, he must have logged off or something.
So he might appreciate this. So this is when Flat Earth Guy first started coming around, and I was a believer. He's convinced me. And so I told Triv that, and he's like, no, you don't believe that. I'm like, no, I do. And so what he kept doing when we would go out to the Feed the Police stuff is he would purposely very loudly go, what are you talking about, Jake? You know the Earth's flat. How are you going to say that it's round? And then just walk away. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. Okay, yeah. All right. And then, Seth, let me ask you, do you remember the first time Triv yelled at you? Like it was like he went like full dad mode, and it was the I'm not even mad, I'm disappointed type talk, because I thought of the first, and it was really the only time that it like really happened with me. And I don't know if you remember this, but it was at a Feed the Police thing. I messed up when I wrote the post-game article for the then Indians.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I said that they lost to the Yankees 2-7. And Seth and I show up because we would drive together to the events. I get out, first thing out of his mouth, I go, hey, Triv. He's like, 2-7. What? No, how the fuck do you lose 2-7? And I'm like, and I'll remind you, Bill Wills already talked to me about this. Ray Davis already kind of ripped into me about this. And now I got Triv. And Triv's like, how do you expect to get opportunities if you can't even do the little things right? Do better. And he walks away, and I'm like, oh my God.
It hurts.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, like, because you told how you met Triv, and we just started this thing, so I might as well tell how I met Triv.
Right. Yeah.
So I was doing MMS for 10 years or a little bit more, and I'd done every shift over there, mornings, overnights, everything. And then finally they said you're fired, basically, from MMS, and they stuck me on overnight traffic. There was one night I came up to the station to do MMS overnights, and I was fucking hammered. Like, I was drunk as shit, dude. And I walk into the MMS studio, and there's Ray Davis sitting in the studio. I'm like, what the hell's going on? He's like, you want a full-time job? Or, yo, Seth, you want a full-time job? Yeah, that'd be great. And he's like, we're going to make it overnight traffic on TAM. And so I was sitting there, and I was doing overnight traffic on TAM, and I thought I was going to kill myself because I just couldn't handle it anymore. My radio career was next to over with. When you're doing overnight traffic, your career is in the fucking shitter. And so I was sitting there, and I found out that one of the guys that was producing for Triv quit. And I was talking to my wife, and she goes, Seth, you got to apply for that job. I mean, I had talked to Triv in the past, being on MMS and stuff. And so I said, all right. I Facebook messaged him like at 1:00 in the morning and said, "Hey man, I want to apply for the job, producer job." And I came in, and eventually, it's a long story of how I actually got that job, but I ended up getting that job, and it was fantastic. Other than the fact that Triv hated me for like the first bunch of years that I worked for him, like literally hated me, like
that was
actually
such
tried.
good radio, though.
But no, it wasn't the first few years because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was kind of trying to fake it till I made it kind of stuff. And
You
he
have to,
wanted
though.
me. He wanted me fired. Like I know he wanted me fired. He told people that he wanted me fired. And I kind of just sat there and just pressed on. And luckily, I had some people that ended up working with me that were worse than I was. And so we ended up towards the end, anyways. We had a decent relationship, and things ended up being pretty good. And I miss that guy like crazy on a day-to-day basis. I think about him and the impact he had on me and the job that I do and radio in general. I mean, you can't think of radio in this town without thinking of that guy, Jeff and Flash. There are very few people in this market that made an impact on radio the way that guy did.
Well, and Seth, I'll take it one step further. Triv is the whole reason why Dennis Kucinich and I are friends.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, I got the call about helping him out with the audiobook, and I'm going, Dennis? I'm like, that guy's he's a nutcase, progressive psychopath, right?
Oh yeah.
And I remember I was talking to you about it, Seth, and you're like, well, Triv's pretty good friends with him. And I'm like, really? Okay. So I called Triv, and I'm like, hey, so Ray called me, Dennis Kucinich needs help. What do you think of him? And Triv, I still remember, like, I was driving home, talked to him because it was after my Saturday shift. That's what it was. It was after a Saturday shift. I called him, and he's like, listen, I don't agree with anything that guy says politically, but he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And I trust him, and I like the guy. You'd be stupid to pass it up.
And I'll tell you what, one of the first pieces of advice that Triv ever gave me, literally, I was sitting in the conference room with him and Ray. But Ray, I didn't really pay attention to anything that guy ever said. But
Ray's coming on next.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. If I saw that guy, I'd sink his boat.
Stop it.
Sorry, I actually kind of like Ray.
Yeah, no, Ray's a good guy. You stop that.
But the way he treated me at the end, I don't have any respect for him. But Triv said, don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was very guarded, and I didn't know that it meant don't trust anybody, that especially some people that were like really close to him. I come to find out, Triv was like the center of a universe, guys. He was like the center of the universe, and all the different planets and stars revolved around him. When he died, everything scattered away, and you really came to find out who were true friends. You came to find out who you could and couldn't trust. And I still know that. I know that today better than ever. Of the people that were surrounding him that were there because they were friends of his, and the people that were just using the shit out of him.
Well, that was when
sucks.
When all that happened, Seth, if you remember, I had quit iHeart like 2 days before he passed.
Yeah.
So I have the last conversation he and I had through the board, because you guys were recording your last segment, since you never did them live, but you always did them live. And he's, it's in my Spotify playlist, so it pops up once in a while. You can't hear me, but you can hear you, Carmen, and Triv. And are we recording? Who's there? And they start, I tell him that, I'm going to go, I'm going to be logging for Viacom. And he's like, logging like a lumberjack? Like, it's a dumb joke. It's not that funny, but you laugh anyways. And, just him, it's the last day, I thank him for everything. I remember I was so choked up. Like, I was trying not to sound like a big bitch and cry while talking to him, but I'm like, thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. And he's like, yep, no problem. Seth, make sure he's recording. He's recording. I saw it. Seth, go in there, make sure he's recording. And then you hear in the clip, you get up And then you walk around and you're recording, right? Yeah, I'm recording. All right, let me see. Okay, yeah, no, you're recording. Then you sit back down. But yeah, it's weird because it's like between, and it was such a weird time for radio too,
Oh, yeah.
because it was right after COVID and all those cuts nationwide happened. Then Rush Limbaugh passed.
Yeah.
Then Triv passed.
Well,
And not that Clay and Buck don't do a great job, but it's not the same.
Hey, Joe,
know?
just real quick. I can't see if anybody else is at the bottom. We can bring more
Yeah,
people
there are.
on with Jake. So, I mean, we want to try to get as many people on together, and I can't
Right.
see. And I know that some people had to real quick time, time constraints. Jake's sticking around, right? At least for a little bit, Jake.
Yeah, for a little bit, and then yeah, I gotta hop on some calls soon. So
if we have
All
some
right.
people that we can bring on,
Yeah, you want me to bring on Tony Masaccio?
Tony? I know needed to come on, so let's get Tony on.
Tony,
Gentlemen, how are you?
What's up, Tone?
welcome to the Trivute. What we're doing is we're asking people to say how you met Triv and some of your favorite stories of him.
So I got a great first impression. Well, first of all, I met Triv at Cleveland PM when he first started. He had a table at Cleveland PM, and he was reading the newspaper, the sports page, just like he did on WNCX when he first started. Although I met Triv many, many years ago before that when he owned Triv's golf course, which was in Solon, which is now Signature of Solon, which is a development. And he ran this thing all cash, no checks, no MasterCard. He made a ton of money, didn't put any money into this thing. He built a nice, and he's always told that story about when he ran his golf course. He put all the money in his pocket. He was my Italian hero when it came to run.
Where'd he go? There he is.
oh,
Must be getting a phone call.
You still there, Tony?
we can't hear you.
We lost.
Can't hear you.
All right, kick him out.
Oh, and then real quick, while you do that, Seth, I have something from the old studio. And I know Joe will appreciate it because Joe will know what it is. And anybody who's watching. So hold on, let me grab it real quick.
See, Leo Tully's watching. Hey, Leo.
Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Take Tony out until his mic is back on. Tell Tony to reconnect or something. Reconnect, Tony.
Tony, try to reconnect.
That's the best. That was the well, I'll wait till he's back on.
I forgot to say we're in the air too.
That was the stand up from when the Coach for Kids warehouse burned down.
Yeah. And yeah,
so they made Jimmy Grenick, I think, made a sign. It was like a pile of clothes burning, and Triv was there with like a water hose trying to put it out.
I got the pile of clothes too. They're sitting on the desk here. So I usually, obviously I moved it, but I usually have it on the left, the left side of my desk. So when I'm sitting here and like I'm looking at the computer screen, I just got Seth, but I got Triv staring at me the whole time.
All right, Tone, there you are.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened with the internet. Welcome to technology. So anyways, when I first met Triv, he was at Cleveland PM. He just started with 1100. And I was sitting at the bar and I was talking to a gentleman that was there who was a salesperson for WTM 1100. And I asked him, I said, who is this guy? He said, oh, he's our new sportscaster. And he said to me, quote unquote, oh, he'll only be with the company for about a month. So again, fast forward, I was one of the tens of thousands that listened to him. And I turned into my father and listened to talk radio. And of course, it changed our lives, guys. And as it always has to this point forward. And now we're on radio from him, which is so cool. So I got to become a listener. And of course, I became a great friend of his, helping him out with Coach for Kids. And as you all know, he would send me to a different restaurant every Thursday evening. And I would be on the air talking about those restaurants that helped us out with Coach for Kids, gave us a $300 gift certificate. And again, we sold those raffle tickets, which was the dinner raffle, which was worth $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. And Ed Flash Ferentz from WMS heard me on the air, saw me. We met at Corleone's, which Pete Bosinger is a mutual friend. And Flash said, I got to tell you, I love what you do on the air. You're crazy on the air. You got an interesting voice. Will you feature a restaurant once a month on my show? And I've been on his show now for it's been 9 years last July. And it was from Triv. And if I would have never met Triv, I would have never gotten in to my dream job on Saturday morning that I make no money at. Welcome to radio. But I eat well.
Yeah, there you go. The best was I was in all those meetings for the Coach for Kids and planning those events, and he would always talk about we got to get Tony to sell raffle tickets because Tony's the best at selling raffle tickets. And so if there was a night that Tony wasn't going to be there selling raffle tickets at the benefits, we had to get 3 other people to replace him because there wasn't anybody like Tony going around asking people for money.
Well, that's because everybody knows Tony.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I didn't ask for 20s. I'd ask for hundreds.
Hell yeah, you would.
Especially with the guy with the $5,000 Armani suit on, because I would make fun of him in front of all of his 3 friends.
Yeah, Tony would be scoping out everybody at the benefit, seeing who had the biggest wad of cash that he could cost and get some more money out of him. And Triv knew that, and he loved you for it. I mean, he made a lot of money for charity.
He
appreciated everything.
One of the cool things about Triv too is when he liked you, you knew it, and when he didn't like you, you also knew that.
Yeah.
How many of us? I mean, there's just 4 of us on here right now, but how many of you guys would get text messages from him at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning?
All the time.
All the time. Yeah. And you could tell when he liked you.
You did. And if he didn't, and you know what? When he yelled at you, you knew you were his friend, like you guys just talked about.
Look. Yeah. You can say that all you want, my friend, but there were a couple of times where I knew that he was not my fucking friend when he was yelling at me.
Yeah, not in the moment.
Right? I knew that there was one day we were sitting there. Is there a lot of people waiting at the bottom, Joe? I can't see anybody.
No, the Flat Earth guy is
okay. So there was one day we were sitting in the studio, and I was trying to teach him or tell him how the log was set up and how many commercials we had to play here, how many commercials we had to play there. He wasn't getting it. Like, he was not understanding what I was telling him, and he got so mad at me. I've told the story before, but he got so angry with me that he literally got up out of his chair. He had his fist balled up, and he came around the console where I was sitting, and he was going to hit me. And he picked up a lamp that was sitting next to me instead, and he threw it at me.
Wow.
And he was so fucking pissed. And Ray Davis was sitting there in the studio with us, and I looked at Ray. I said, he just hit me with a lamp, Ray. And he walked out. Triv walked out and he took off. Like, he got in his car and he left the building. And 10 minutes later, he calls me. I see my phone's ringing. It's Triv. And he goes, Seth, sorry. And then he hung up his phone. That was all he said to me was, sorry. Hung up his phone. And then he came back acting like nothing happened. It was great. But
funny.
Seth,
he was really pissed.
The best was during COVID when he wanted his toys. So you guys are sitting there trying to transfer everything over to the different machine, and he's like, what do you mean it's not done yet? Well, we're working on it. How hard is it to move it? Why? And you're like, I don't know. Okay. And you knew that. Okay. You're like, he either doesn't care or he cares a lot, and it's an hour before the show and he just doesn't want to go off right now.
Yeah.
But you knew that. Okay. You're like,
that is interesting you say that too, Jake, because when it came to technology, he could have cared less. I mean, there's a guy who had a flip phone, and he would have stayed with that flip phone to this day if he was still alive.
Yep.
Because technology was not part of his life, and it never was. So it was hard for him to change. It really was. He did not love the word change. It wasn't in his vocabulary. That's what made him so unique in that industry, because, and here, even like when COVID occurred and he's doing it out of his house, and then he thought, you know what, this is kind of cool. I don't have to go back to that stinky ass studio with germs. And that's how he was.
That is exactly, he was on a technology. He always said to me, what do I need a smartphone for? I got you.
Yeah.
And he was reversing. So if I got a smartphone, what the hell do I need you for? You're right.
Yeah,
Oh my God. And then when like he would send, I don't know if I ever told Seth this, but he would have like Carmen and Seth look up stuff. And if they weren't finding it, Triv would call me. He'd go, "What are you doing?" "I'm running board." "Why?" I don't know. I'm working." "You call that work? Hey, what are Seth and Carmen doing?" It's like they're trying to find that clip. "They're really trying to find it?" "Yeah." "Oh, okay. All right. Well, help them. You go on Twitter and look." Like that, he would always go on Twitter. Not everything is on Twitter. Not everything. Go on Twitter and look. All right. Yep. I'll look it up. I'll see if I can find it. Okay. Click. It was just, he would always call. "What are they actually doing?" I'm like, yeah, no, they're
Well,
doing it.
The best
And
was
those were his famous 4 words. What are you
What are you
doing?
doing?
yeah.
I still
what are you
At
doing?
I call
7
Seth
o'clock
to
in the
tell him that.
morning.
Oh
What are you
yeah.
doing?
I still have text messages like that in my phone.
It's great.
I'll tell you some of the best times of my life, and the reason I love radio so much is a lot of because of him. He would call me on a Saturday morning, and I get to eat. "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing." And I'd go out and smoke cigarettes on the patio by myself, and he'd be on the phone with me for an hour and a half, just talking about radio and the business and what was going to happen and what he thought about this and that. And it was just some of the greatest times of my life because it was learning from a legend.
Mm-hmm.
And you felt so honored that he was actually picking up the phone and calling you and not just asking for something. He just was talking to you. And that's how I knew that things had gotten better from where we started, because it was finally a conversation, not just a "you suck at what you do."
Well,
it was nice that we could call him a friend, and where we have gotten over the years. Again, I went to Kent State for broadcasting. I did not get into it until 10 years ago. So think about that. If I would have never met that guy, I would have never got the opportunity to do what I do with another legend, Ed Flash Ferris, from the old WMS days. Which, I mean, I pinch myself every Saturday morning, and I got into this just like he did as a caller. I was calling him, and of course, he was calling Pete Franklin. And now everybody knows Tony became a little famous just from that guy, which is so cool.
Tony, Jake, whenever you guys got to run, you guys go ahead and do it.
Actually, I got to go. I am going to Best of Cleveland, which is at the Science Center. So that's another great part about this. I get invited to all these different places. Being on the air, they're $200, $300 VIP tickets. I'm living like a king. Thank you, Triv, so much for this. I really mean it.
Well, listen, Tony. Yeah, hey, thanks for calling in and telling your favorite memories. Yeah, we all miss Triv.
And Seth, next Wednesday, I am going to touch upon something. The girl that got shot from Channel 19, Winnie Dorch. I am going to, talking about benefits, I am going to get something going here, possibly at Harry's Steakhouse. So I need you, and I need your microphone. Help me with this.
We got it.
I'll talk to you about it.
Thanks,
guys,
Tony.
nice seeing you. Have a great evening. Take care.
All right. So our next guy in the air, you know what? It was such great radio. I loved logging or tuning in and hearing this next guest on the Triv show. I only know you as the flat earth guy. In fact, it's kind of funny because on Facebook, you follow me, and I don't know what there was a conversation one time, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? I don't know Mike Ramirez. And then, so I think it was yesterday, I'm like, Seth, do you know a Mike Ramirez? He's like, yeah, that's the flat earth guy. He's awesome. So that's why, or the other day, and that's why I texted you. I'm like, hey, call me. I want to get you on here. So I'm sure you heard the other guys. First, welcome. You're in the air. I want to hear how you met Triv. Your favorite memories of Triv. We got nobody in the bullpen yet, so you can take your time a little bit.
Fantastic.
So, welcome.
Well, first of all, thank you for the tribute. It's always important to remember those who've gone before us, and especially those, who've touched our lives. It's an honor to be here. So one of the things that I had to do is, you guys were talking about the flat earth and things like that. And I had just done some research on that. I had about 80 pages worth of information. And I'm like, I can't give Trevisano 80 pages of information. But the reason that he was highlighted to me is because I'm a man of faith. And the Lord told me that Mike Trevisano was my assignment. So, I put my big boy pants on and I started stalking him, going to the food trucks and that. And by the time I got my nerve up to actually talk to him, he had left. So I saw Seth there and I said, well, I'll go to Seth. So Seth probably remembers, I went up to him, I had 20 pages and I said, can you just, let Triv see this? Most of it was pictures. But, I had a pretty good idea and Seth, was acknowledging, I'll put it on his desk. So the next week, Triv wasn't there, but I talked to Seth again and, he told me what I feared, and that is it was one step away from the garbage can. But in the meantime, I was making friends at the food truck with Billy Morris and with Dave.
Mortosh.
How can we forget? Yeah, Mortosh. And Gunny Terry. I'm a veteran Marine, so I just naturally, assimilated with those guys and became friends. But Trevisano, again, a superstar, a genius in his own right, and he's a bit intimidating. Seth, you always say that he's like he has his own orbit, and people just kind of gravitate around him. But I knew that I had to do what God told me to do, and what I did is because I was able to make friends with other people, they were my in. So I'm looking at Trevisano, and he's sitting down and he's talking to, Billy Morris, and Billy Morris turns around, but I'm staring at Trevisano, and Billy Morris turns around, he sees me, and he runs up to me and gives me a big hug because I don't know if you guys know this, Billy's a great rocker, but he also likes to do motocross, and he does that with his son.
Yeah.
So he had hurt his shoulder. And I have these things that, we developed that actually help. And he couldn't believe the benefit that he got from that. It's the same thing with Gunny Terry. And so when he gave me a big hug, I'm looking at Trevisano's faces, Billy's giving me a hug and he's like, who is this guy? So I'm still waiting, to get a hold of him. And he goes to get, a bite to eat. And I said, that's my opportunity. I'll wait till he has a big, bunch of food in his mouth so he can't talk, and I'm going to ambush him. So I go up to him and I say, Trev, I just need 30 seconds of your time. You were talking about this. I've got 36 government declassified documents that prove that the earth is non-rotating and is flat. And right then and there he says, I'm going to make you famous. Okay, you're the flat earth guy. And that's how I got my nickname. And since then, I actually have accumulated over 1,000 pages. And again, this tribute's not about me; it's about him. But it's his sincerity to want to know things. Again, you guys, everyone knows his famous saying, right? I live in a world I don't understand. And I really believe that he wanted to try and make sense out of what was going on. And can you imagine if he was still here today, what his show would be like?
I know. Oh my God.
It's insane. And I say that because he had a way of interpreting what's really going on and convey it to everyday people. I mean, he was just gifted that way. I'm not gifted that way, but he was. And he made it a point that, and I don't know if you guys understand this, but I did, even though he never said it. Mike Trevisano protected me. Okay, so I remember the first time I went into the studio. This is all new to me. I've got all my, books, okay, of the stuff that I have. And he's in there and he will not allow me to elaborate because he wants to save it for the big show. So this was just a big tease, and he was teasing and teasing, I'm like, and I got this, and I'm all excited. I'm all, not really good for radio, but again, the mannerisms are all there. But he did protect me in that he gravitated the questions so that people could understand the perspective that I had. And, you know, again, it's not easy to talk about a subject that is like a conspiracy theory. Okay. And there's a lot of ways that, you know, people can put their 2 cents in that in a derogatory way. And I just respected, you know, his professionalism, the way that he handled himself. And obviously you guys, you know, we're all really good friends with Mike. I don't recall in a situation where Mike was ever mad at me.
No.
But I do recall that, you know, I really think he did like me, and that I was starting to become more of a friend for him, and also a person who he would communicate with from time to time.
Okay.
And so 8 days before he passed, he was talking about, you know, I got to go to the top. You know, I got to go to Jesus. I got to talk to God and find out what's really going on. And I texted him and I just told him, I said, you know, I have his phone number if you want it. And he literally texted me back, and I told him it's Jeremiah 33:3. He says, you know, call unto me and I'll answer you, and I'll tell you things that you know, need to know for your benefit. And so, you know, I spoke with Triv about that. And, you know, he was the type of guy that when he made up his mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when he made up his mind to do something, he was going to do it. And, you know, he said to me, you know, we're going to have you on again, but this time we're going to have you on as a minister, as a man of faith. And, you know, we're going to talk about this because, you know, I really want to know. And so I, you know, let him know that he was going to have a dream that night. If the dream was in color, to be straight from the Lord. But if it's in black and white, God's either warning him or it's from the enemy. And, you know, that was the last time I talked with him. We had about a 20-minute conversation. But I really believe that, you know, God does give us divine appointments. Mike Trevisano was a divine appointment for me. I hope I was also a divine appointment for him. And I think that we were able to touch on a subject that was controversial, but in a way that was fair and helped people gain knowledge. I think, Joe, you said that you really appreciated those shows. You know, of course I did too. He was fair. You know, and again, I just keep talking about his professionalism. He asked the hard questions when he had to. You know, I remember him saying, "What the hell difference does it make?" You know, and it was the right question, but it is a huge question, and it does deserve to be answered because there's so much deception going on, more so now that you are realizing. But at the time I was talking to him, I knew about 33 conspiracy theories that had been proven true. And so how do you get that information out to people without offending them because of cognitive dissonance and all this other stuff? And even with Seth and Mike, you know, if someone's really bent on the other side and isn't open to hearing a different perspective, that can be difficult. But Mike, for whatever reason, he was able to grasp the gravity of it, but also do it in a way that was entertaining and was non-threatening to people. And I appreciate that. But, you know, you asked to give, you know, your favorite, you know, Triv story. Well, that might be difficult.
For all of us.
I know that with you, there was one day that you came out to one of the police things and you brought him your homemade water.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
We all had that water.
And Jake, you were there, I think, and he's like,
It's still cold.
it's still cold. But then he's like, I'm like, are you going to drink it? He's like, put it in my car. But yeah, I mean, he did love you. I mean, he did.
Yeah.
Triv knew he was the ultimate entertainer. He knew what was entertaining, what was going to be entertaining to his audience. He knew that people were going to gravitate towards you, whether they believed you or they didn't believe you. He knew what was going to be good for the radio.
Right.
And that's what it came down to. He knew Jake was going to be good for the radio. He knew, Joe, that you were going to be good for the radio with your flags. He knew what was going to be good for radio. And, you know, that's what I miss. Most importantly, not just his friendship, but I miss radio in his town when he knew how to do it.
Yes. And, you know, the topics that he was willing to cover, you know, were phenomenal. And And the reason I said it's going to be hard for me to, talk about, the most influential, encounter I had with Trevisano is because it chokes me up. When he put me on with Travis Mills, that was life-changing. As a vet, I understand sacrifice. And Triv honored him doing something great for the Coach for Kids, and his love for this city, his love for the charities. And you guys know this. He's there all day, taking a smoke break or this, but his dedication and his unwavering ability, again, unmatched in anyone I've seen.
Well, it was genuine too. It wasn't shtick. So he loved the the military and the police. That was never shtick. I love that about him.
Right. And so when my wife got a chance to meet Travis, we were undone.
That's great.
She gave him a hug and then just started bawling. But those connections, it's not just the connections to Triv, it's the connections to who Triv knew and who he could introduce you to. Okay. And, like I said, that was the most, influential, and we're still friends to this day, with Travis and with Craig, and, I can't say enough, these things wouldn't have happened but for Triv.
Absolutely.
God bless him.
Well, listen,
my friend. Yeah.
Well, listen, flat Earth guy.
Sure.
Plain truth guy.
Plain truth guy. Mike, thanks for calling in. I want to get some more people. We got a couple of people lined up. So
Perfect.
Thanks for giving. It's hard to pick one or two good stories.
No, they're all good.
Yeah.
And thank you again, guys.
I'll be talking to you soon, my friend.
Absolutely, guys. I'm always available. God bless.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey, and I have carpal tunnel, so I'm going to talk to you, get some of that stuff. See if you can
I
fix
do.
it.
And guys, the water is amazing. Understand that they're putting stuff in our water. They're putting stuff in the, and then the pesticides and all that stuff. It's not good. Okay. Their goal, we're at 8.2 billion people, and their goal is to reduce us to 500 million. That's 7.7 billion people that have to be eradicated. This is not good.
I can think of a couple. That'll be all right.
Yeah, we can't pick and choose when 94% of the population of the world is going to be destroyed.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you soon.
There you go.
Thanks
God
for
bless.
calling in.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right. So, Seth, I think
you're going to take you still on time.
Yeah, you want
I got like 2 minutes, but real quick, can I tell a quick story?
Yeah. Then we'll let you go.
And then I got to get out of here. So the first time I hosted, the first segment was a shit show. I gave out the wrong phone number. I gave out MMS's number, all of it. Like it was good, but not in the way that you want it to be good. And the day before, because it was on a Saturday, I got to host from noon to 3. And the day before, Triv got wind that I was going to be hosting. So he brings me on to preview my show for the next day. And just like the advice part of it, he's like, so what are you going to talk about? And I'm like, hey, probably going to talk about Baker Mayfield, why, the Browns don't need to let him go. This was back in 21, by the way. I was early on it. But, we need to be patient with Baker and, go into politics. And he's like, you're good with politics. Stick to politics. I'm like, all right. So I talk Baker for like the first 30 minutes, and then the rest of the show is just politics. So Triv calls in. When you get into the heat of an argument, you guys start going back and forth, and you're just boom, 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 boom. I hung up on Triv, and there's still to this day people that when I see them, especially like Rob Bailey's wife, first thing when we start talking about radio is, oh my God, do you remember when you hung up on Triv? And I'm like, I do. We went back and forth, and he's just, all you millennials do is bitch. bitch, bitch, bitch. And I go, name one millennial, Triv. Name one that has passed a law. I'm waiting. Name one. Bitch, bitch, bitch. And I'm like, boom, thanks for the call, Mike. And then it hits me what I just did. And I go, we'll be back. This is I'm Jake Underwood on News Radio, WTAM E1100. And I go to break and I'm like, oh my God, I just hung up on Triv. Like, I'm done. I'm done. He's, oh my God. And then I think Seth called me and he's like, huh, that was pretty good. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, huh, yeah, Triv liked it too. And I was like, okay. All right, I could breathe a little bit because, you know, that happened. Your stomach is just in knots. Plus, it's your first show. And I ran my own board. I screened my own calls. I did everything. I wanted to make sure that they could never fire me. So I did everything that I could. And yeah, I just, oh my God, when that moment of just like clarity where I'm going, oh my God, I just hung up on Triv. Oh, I might be done. He's okay. Well, I'm done feeding the police. I'm done hanging out with Seth. This all right. We're done. And then for them to call and go, no, it was good. I'm like, okay, all right, we're good then. Okay, we're all right. But yeah, I gotta hop off of here. Joe, thank you so much for doing this, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, this was awesome. Hey, before you go, can I get a little Jesse Ventura?
Well, absolutely you can. Fantastically wonderful. I remember when I was down in the Baja and I saw Mike Trivisano for the first time, and I was listening to him on the radio, and I said, wow, that is an independent thinker.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep, we'll talk soon. Have a good night, guys.
All right, thanks.
Who else is down there?
Well, this guy you might know.
How many people? Hey, Glenn Forbes, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
We are hanging. Thanks for taking some time out of the Indians game to.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, how am I supposed to follow Jesse the Body Ventura? I mean, that was really good.
He does some great impressions.
You don't know Jake very well, do you?
I know him a little bit. Yeah, he was slightly after my time, but we met during your podcast, Seth. I think your first ever podcast.
Yeah, he just got done touring with the Kennedy campaign. He was part of the Kennedy campaign. So he's been doing pretty good. Now he's with Dennis Kucinich, so he's doing all right.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, first of all, with that story, I mean, as long as it was good radio, Triv didn't care if you hung up on him. No. Again, he thought it was fantastic. And it was also funny listening to Jake talk about he was going to start talking about Baker Mayfield and then do politics. Triv, you're good at politics. Go with politics. When you track Triv's career, right, that's what he did. He started out talking sports. He was all sports. And I had a lot of conversations with him about this because as a kid, as a teenager, whatever, first of all, my earliest Triv story is when he hung up on me when I was too young to call, and I called in anyway. And I told him that story, and I was like 10 or whatever. And he goes, how old are you? And I was like, 15. And he hangs up on me. He goes, go study. So he hung up on me. And it's just funny that, 20 years later, I became his producer, but I would talk to him about kind of his decision to move away from sports and do more, politics and local news and things like that. 30% of the audience, 30% of the population cares about sports.
Right.
So if you're talking sports consistently, you're leaving out 70% of the audience. Now, what he would always say, Seth, is we'll talk sports when it's news.
Yeah.
So that got me thinking about him today. Mayor Bibb and the Browns make this announcement, 2 hours ahead of Game 3 of the ALCS. We would have been at Progressive Field, and I just would have loved to have heard Triv's reaction to the fact that all that news was coming out today. Yeah. Just about the timing and, Seth, what's your take? How would he have reacted to that?
Oh, it would have been crazy how he would have reacted to that. I don't know what he would have done. It was kind of funny that their afternoon guy didn't think it was on today. On. I mean, Triv would have been all over the place with everything going on today.
I mean, just imagine what he would have been saying the last 3 years with sports, with, the state of the country. It would have been radio gold for him.
So now let me interrupt you, Glenn, real quick, because Glenn Forbes was the second producer that I worked with, because I worked with Goman first, and then it was you. And let me just say that it was the worst fucking time of me being on the radio that I ever had my entire life. And not because of you. Working with you is fantastic. But for whatever reason, when it was you and I doing that show, it was when Ray Davis was going through this hard-on for getting millennials to listen to the show.
Oh, my gosh.
So we had to play the dumbest songs, like the Call Me Maybe song, and we had to do the dumbest parodies. We had to do the dumbest shit ever. And it was like they were on our ass nonstop. It was crazy.
That was a strange time, I think, for a lot of reasons. It was a time of transition, as you mentioned. We did have the Call Me Maybe, which we turned into Call Triv Daily.
Yeah.
I should say he turned it into Call Triv Daily, because basically his thing was, listen, if you're going to make me play this music that's going to alienate my audience, I need to make it my own. And his point was, I remember him saying to Ray, the parents that are listening to me are trying to get away from that music. They don't want to hear, But I remember Ray too. One time, he was some song from Group Love or whatever. He's like, Trev, at the tailgate, they were rocking out to that. They were rocking out. I'm like, first of all, that's not our audience. Second of all, I've always said, if Ray Davis thinks I'm entertaining, then I know I'm in trouble. That guy was not the most entertaining person around there. But, that's enough about Ray. Listen, I mean, he gave me an opportunity. He and Triv both saw talent in me. So I'll always appreciate that. But you're right, Seth. That was a really strange time in which, they were trying to, I don't want to say change the direction of the show, but so much was changing at that point in society. Obviously, it's still changing a lot in society. But, he couldn't get away with the things that he used to be able to get away with.
No.
Through no fault of his own.
They had this weird theory that if you played it on the radio, people were just going to automatically hear it and change to TAM. And it wasn't going to happen like that. It wasn't like we just started playing new music songs and then millennials were going to start tuning into the station. So they were confused on how to actually change things that they wanted to change. But it was a fun time because you were like awesome to work with, and he loved working with you because if you wanted something, you would look it up on Twitter immediately. You just have it at your fingertips, and he was fascinated that you could actually get stuff that quickly.
One of the best, and I'm still in media now. I saw a question on there. I'm with IdeaStream Public Media, which is one of the strangest transitions one can ever make in radio, going from the Mike Trevisano show to public media. And it's different. But every once in a while, when I'm typing something really fast, I think of the time he would say, "And what does it say over there, old typey?" For whatever reason, he just started calling me old typey, and because I looked at one of the things that I can do, and through Twitter and all that stuff was, I kind of became like breaking news guy. Of course, I came from the news department. Right. I mean, I was hired away by Triv from the WTAM news department. My background was in sports and news. So I was very used to looking at breaking news and trying to, interpret that right away. And we did some comedy stuff. We did some bits here and there.
You're Jim Donovan. Don't do it now, though.
No. Well, and I'll tell you this, Seth, as you know, the stuff that you do on the Triv show kind of follows you everywhere.
Yes, it does.
I've been in interviews where, guys that I really like and really respected have said, well, when you were on the Triv show, you guys did that Jim Donovan bit. And, I'm not saying it was you, but I'm not sure how that's going to fly, and stuff like that. And it's like, listen, it's a talk show. We're having fun. Triv was mad for a couple reasons. One, because TAM didn't have the rights to the Browns anymore. And two, the way he told the story was Channel 3 strong-armed the Browns into giving Jim Donovan that play-by-play role. It was supposed to be Mike Snyder. I don't know whether that's true or not. Triv, rarely, I don't think Triv, ever lied. But the story was that Mike Snyder was supposed to get that job. Triv and Jim Donovan, two, big personalities, didn't necessarily get along. And I think Triv looked at it as an opportunity when the Browns left TAM that he could kind of finally say what he wanted. And he employed us in doing that. And the Browns were not very good. I think 1 year, I was with Triv for 6 years. I think 1 year they were actually good. So there was a lot of opportunity to kind of listen to some of those calls and let's say make them our own, Seth. And I think we did a decent job at it.
Yeah, you did a great job with that.
Well, thank you.
And then the best were the parody songs. He couldn't rely on you and I to actually write a good parody song and put it together like a Paul Ratto could. It just wasn't our thing. I mean, you were a news guy and you did good stuff. Donovan thing was great, but so he would have us write these parodies, Joe, where it wasn't a parody. It was just replacing words in a song. And I'd go in and there's Glenn doing these, just taking words out of a song and just saying a word.
Yeah,
really funny, but
he would rely on me to do the deadpan thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and even gosh, I can't remember the specifics, but generally speaking, there would be a rapper or something who would come out with a statement, or he would have me read the rap lyrics basically in my newscaster voice. And it would just little stuff like that. I do remember one Jimmy Haslam bit that I did that he really liked. It was in the days of Nicole Marcelino, believe it or not.
Oh, geez.
And I had to write it like I was calling a temp agency to find a head coach. And that one he really enjoyed. I got pretty good at my Jimmy Haslam impression, just kind of saying candidly all the time. And you'll remember this. We were just talking about this today, Seth, with my current coworker and our former coworker, Josh Boos, who is with me over at WKSU on IdeaStream right now. Somehow it got back to Haslam because Triv loved the learners. He loved Al. He loved Randy. Knew that Randy wasn't a great owner because maybe he didn't really want to own the Browns. But I guess it got back to Haslam that Triv said on the air that Al Lerner's driveway costs more than Jimmy Haslam's house.
I remember
Jimmy Haslam did not care for that, and that got back to us as well. So it was funny how many things were just kind of percolating out in the Cleveland area that Triv had said. And a lot of people say, well, I never listened to Triv, but I did hear him this one time. And what he said was, and it's like, come on, everybody listens to Triv, or everyone has heard something that Triv had said.
Now, he loved you, and I know that because, after you left was a weird time for me because that was actually when I started getting closer to him because it was just me and him for a little while until he decided to hire. Well, he asked me who he should hire, and I said, Carmen. What a fucking mistake. I'm kidding. So then when Carmen was there, Carmen could not look up stuff the way that you could with like Twitter and stuff. And all the time he'd go, you think we can call Glenn and Glenn could look something up for me? I don't know what Glenn's doing, but I could ask. But he really did love the way that you worked with that show. And I thought that was a great version of the Triv show. And it was some of the most fun, even the most stressful, but some of the most fun I had.
It was different. And the way it was explained to me, I mean, listen, Goldman is probably one of the smartest people I've ever met, let alone smartest people I've ever worked with.
No doubt.
And it had been explained to me that kind of formula was what he was looking for. He wanted a guy, not necessarily to play the straight man, because I didn't, we goofed around a lot and did a lot of those things, but somebody to come in with more education, right? For lack of a better word. He always made fun of Goldman for having, 8 degrees from colleges, and stuff like that. For me, I was the news guy. And you know what? That's another one of my favorite stories that I wanted to mention. You remember my first day ever on the air at TAM when I did a newscast?
Yeah.
And I guess just the way I delivered the news got Triv and Goldman's attention. So they called me in, and my first newscast was on the Triv show. I mean, I'm shaking, right? Like, This is the most terrified I've ever been in my life. And I came in with Carmen. Carmen's like, you want me to go into the booth with you? And people may not realize when you go into that booth, you've got to hit all the different sounders and all the different stuff during the newscast. So I wasn't worried about what I was going to say, but I was worried about all the sounders. So I said to Carmen, I said, you better effing come in there with me because I don't know what I'm doing. So I get through the newscast. Triv invites me in. You guys played the demo that Goldman had, a 2020 Sports.
Yeah.
Where Goldman was talking like this the whole time.
I remember that. Yeah.
The Indians are facing, and it gets through, and Triv goes, so Glenn, what'd you think of that? What would you say to Goldman there? I said, I don't know. He doesn't have, huevos. He doesn't have those huevos that he needs. And, from then on, like, I was in there with you guys all the time, even when I was in the news department, because that's where I wanted to be. No offense to the news department or Darren Toms, who hired me, who I think got a little irritated that I was in there with you guys all the time.
Sure.
I wanted to be on that show. And I knew it, from the beginning, really from the time I was 10 years old. And now I'm here in the building with you guys. And anytime I can kind of sneak my way into the studio to be a part of that show, that's what I was going to do. And then, when Goldman decided to leave, Triv approached me and said, how would you like to be my producer? And I was like, that sounds fantastic. So, we had to go through an interview process, and there were other good candidates for the job, but I was fortunate enough to be hired as his producer.
Yeah, and we had like different variations on that show because Jennifer was on the show when you were on there. Then Nicole Marcelino was on there at some point. Andre was on there at some point.
Yep.
Goldman came back at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were doing, trying to tweak it all the time, but it ended up. The best was just myself, you, Triv, and Jennifer finally started to get it once everything was done. She was actually a very talented girl, I thought, anyways.
So I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Who was the woman that was on the show? And I think she might have gotten fired.
Which one?
Oh, I don't know. It must have been around, 2018, 17, maybe. No, that can't be right. Yeah.
Well,
16.
Nicole would have been.
Yeah, well, you know what? No, because I was gone 2018. Yeah, I was gone 2018, and by that point, Jennifer was gone, Nicole was gone, and it was Olivia. Olivia was doing the traffic,
but she wasn't part of the show the way that the other two were.
I think she was did he have like somebody just said Kim Mahalik?
She was going way.
That's before that's before my time.
When I was working at MMS, that's when Kim Mahalik was there, and she got fired the same day I did from MMS. And then they had what's her name? Allison,
yeah.
Is she the one that dated the painter?
No, that was Olivia who dated the painter. Allison.
Oh, the painter, yeah.
Allison is married to Derek Shelton from the Pirates, right?
Right. Correct. Well, yeah, I mean, Olivia, that was, Olivia was.
She was the
Olivia
best.
Became hilarious just by being herself because she was so deadpan. Yeah. I talk about being deadpan. Olivia was just like, let me do the traffic and leave me alone. And that became the joke because we would not leave her alone. But she always had that same vocal inflection, the same expression.
She had no idea how to be funny, which was what made her funny.
Hilarious.
Now, did she actually date a painter, or was that just
I think
Triv giving her a reason to bring her on?
I think she lied about dating a painter. I think he did something else.
I'm starting to remember. Boy, I haven't thought about that in a while, but yeah, I'm starting to remember. Boy, I haven't thought about that in a while, but yeah, I'm starting to remember Olivia and the painter.
She talked about the painter all the time, but I think that when off the air, he actually did something else. He worked. I don't know what he did, but she was really, really funny, and because she didn't know she was funny
without trying to be. Yeah.
I don't know, Glenn. I mean, you're one of the few people that I've remained friends with. I mean, I was on that show for like 13 years, and you're the only one that I really talk to on a routine basis because I thought you were great at what you did, and I thought the way that you left was just shitty.
Yeah,
and I think it would have stayed together for a long time if that didn't happen.
I'll tell that story one more time just so there's no confusion, because when you leave TAM or you're fired from TAM the way that I was or whatever, there are a lot of people who one just to know what happened. And speaking of Dennis Kucinich, I mean, when Dennis found out that I was no longer there, like he took it harder than I did. And I'll always respect Dennis Kucinich for that. He's, oh my God, Glenn, what happened? I mean, he was so nice about it and so complimentary, such a nice guy. The other, but there were a lot of people who reached out and was like, what did Triv have to do with it? What did Triv do? And what did Triv this and Triv that? Triv had nothing to do with it. Triv was gone that week. The reason I got fired was kind of because of the Parkland shooting in Florida. There was a school shooting. I was hosting the show that day. I was upset because I was like, I'll just do a stupid fun show about Valentine's, and it was Valentine's Day. I'll just do a stupid show about Valentine's Day, and Seth and I will goof around and we'll get calls and it'll be no big deal. Well, then Parkland happens and I'm upset. I'm mad about it because, another school shooting, and it's like, it's just what was going on in the country. And I guess maybe some things that were going on behind the scenes, and I was upset. So I said, goddamn on the air.
Yeah.
Which, oh, by the way, other people at that radio, not at that radio station necessarily, but other people in that cluster said every day, multiple times a day, all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Ray Davis always had, I thought in some ways Ray always kind of had it out for me because I wouldn't conform exactly to it. Listen, it's a tough job because you've got two bosses who are diametrically opposed.
Yes.
Right? Who have different interpretations about really everything about radio and entertainment. All right. So Ray is upset with me. He and we had talked about language before. I was never in jeopardy of losing the license, jeopardizing the license, anything like that. He just didn't like some of the things that I said. Next day, I'm supposed to host again. It's probably an hour before the show. I find out that Steve Loomis, who's a great guy, was going to host not host the show, but he was going to be in with me and the news director at the time. So I have a meeting with Ray, and I'm planning on telling him, like, listen, how can you do this to me and not tell me that I'm hosting a show with two other people when I have this whole show prepared? So we have a pretty contentious, and I think that's what the meeting is about. Him saying, hey, we're going to have other hosts in. I'm sorry I didn't tell you until now, but we think this is the best thing. Instead, I go into the meeting and Ray says, Glenn, we need to talk about you saying goddamn yesterday. You can't talk like that on the air. I just don't want you to talk like that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you pulled a rug out from under me and you want to talk about yesterday, a word that's not going to get us in any trouble with the FCC, that somebody on WMMS says all the time, Glenn, we're not on WMMS, you're on WTAM. I don't want you to say that word. In the past, I had asked him for a list of words I could not say. I was like, just be George Carlin. Give me the 7 words that I can't say on radio. Like, just, because I want to make sure that I'm not running afoul of you. So we have a meeting. It ends poorly. They send me home.
I remember that.
I come in the next day and I decide I'm going to do what they would call in professional wrestling a heel turn. I'm going to become Mr. Corporate. I'm going to become Mr. Ray Davis. I'm going to do a Ned Flanders routine, and I'm never going to swear again. And I had all these different bits and sound bites ready and all this other stuff. My wife later told me it felt like, because my wife was listening, she said, it felt like you were on a kamikaze mission and I was listening to you crash into the earth.
Yeah.
That did not go over well, and I was fired a couple days later. Triv had absolutely nothing to do with it. Like I said, he was not there. And when I called him after I got the job at IdeaStream, I called him. I said, listen, I just wanted to apologize to you. So I called Triv to apologize to him. I said, I know you were counting on me to do a lot with the benefit, and I was stupid and I screwed things up. He goes, listen, forget all that. What did you do to Ray? I've never seen him that mad. What did you say? And I explained it. I was like, well, I did this, and then I put some of these things on Facebook, and neither him nor Keith Abrams, who I love to death, love Keith Abrams, who was, the former operations manager there, but neither one of them got it, right? Yeah, I was trying to stick it to Ray, so I would expect him to be mad, but I knew when Keith called me and he was like, so what were you thinking? What was going on? And I explained it to him. He goes, yeah, I don't get it. We'll talk Monday. And I'm like, oh God, actually Tuesday, because it was President's Day weekend. I was like, as soon as Keith said he didn't get it, I was like, man, am I in trouble? And I was, and that was it. But it didn't have anything to do with Triv. And I love where I am now. But I know that I will never have more fun doing a job than I had with you and Triv. I will never have more fun. I will never experience an audience that is more loyal, that is more generous. The money that we raised for Coats for Kids in Providence House, I'll never have an experience like that again. So it was fun while it lasted. I do have some regret, of course, in the way that it ended. But I also remember telling you, Seth, like, when I found out that Geraldo Rivera got hired for TAM,
going downhill,
I probably would have gotten fired that day because I would have hit the ceiling and I would have said, you can't give me, a penny raise, but you're giving Geraldo Rivera God knows how much money, to bomb in the 9 o'clock spot. I probably would have lost my job that day anyway. So.
Real quick, we got Billy Fisher coming up here. Hey, Billy.
Good to see you, Billy.
The reason
guys,
I knew that Trev loved you the day that Chuck Galletti was filling in. And Galletti was talking about LeBron James and saying how great LeBron is, blah, 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 all this LeBron. And you were pushing back and saying, talking crap about LeBron. And Galletti tried to kick you out of the studio. And you came into the studio with me and you were sitting there because Galletti literally kicked you out of the studio. And Triv called into the show and goes, put me on the air. And so I put him on, and he starts ripping Galletti a new one. Say, you are never going to put my guy and kick him out of that studio. This is my show. And he basically told Galletti he's never going to host again for him. And Galletti took off, and I knew that. I mean, he loved you, Glenn. I mean, he did. So
Thank you very much. Couple of interesting side stories to that. That was the second time I gave Galletti a heart attack. The first time was when I was we were just talking NFL draft. It was just normal sports stuff. We were talking about Browns and Steelers in the draft. I think the Browns had taken Brandon Weeden, and I was mad about that. And the Steelers took some lineman that was there for 10 years and had Pro Bowls and all this stuff. So I'm biting back with Galletti, and like he couldn't handle it. Like he was short of breath. He was legitimately in some sort of medical distress. So I remember because Ray loved Galletti.
Oh, yeah.
And that was when I started to realize, listen, if Ray likes you, maybe you're not going down the right path. Because he just – anyway, so that day, we're talking about LeBron, and my argument was, listen, if LeBron wasn't a great basketball player, he'd be driving a Pepsi truck.
Yep.
So Galletti got mad at that and talked about how much money LeBron is worth this much money. I said, what does that have to do with anything other than the fact that he's a basketball player? So Galletti got mad at me and, he told me to get out of the studio, and all that stuff. And so I did. And I went down to the office and did some other work. And then I came back and Galletti left because I remember you after Triv was on the air on the phone. There was some back and forth between you and Galletti, and you were like, well, what do you want to do? And Galetti's like, I'm going to leave. I'm out of here. And there was like 10 minutes left in the show.
Yeah.
So I go back in and start hosting. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what to say. I appreciate Triv, calling in and defending me and all this stuff. It was like, we were just having a normal conversation. But that guy couldn't handle Galletti, couldn't handle having a real talk show. He couldn't handle the back and forth. And I think it tells you a lot that one of the guys they wanted to replace Triv was Galletti. Yeah, I won't get into how wise, that was. That's a Ray Davis production there. It is what it is. But that was an interesting time. And I will remember Triv for that. And obviously for a lot. Listen, I think about the guy every day. Yep. Every day something happens to me where a Triv phrase runs through my mind.
Without a doubt. Me too.
Or, I see him in my dreams. I'm sure you guys do too.
I have a picture of him in my hallway. All right.
Yes. A big picture.
A big, huge, giant picture of Triv is in my hallway. The lady painted it for me. It's beautiful. But every day that I walk in the door, Triv is sitting there yelling at me. So,
what the best was, he would call you and say, "Wake up," or "What are you doing?"
What are you doing?
Or, just any of those phrases. And we mentioned Coats for Kids. Debbie Martinko, one of my favorite people in the world. She's just so great. But she would, Triv would call and she would pick up and she would say, "Hey, how's it going? Write this down." But the way his brain worked, the ideas that he had, and the crazy thing about my job, it was my job to take these big ideas and make them work logistically. He had wonderful ideas. I mean, every thought that he had was we'd raise, $350,000 for Coats for Kids. He'd come back on Monday and say, how do we make more? How do we make more money for charity? How do we make this bigger? And it was always, from everything I do now, charity events to even, something like Pledge, the pledge that we have on IdeaStream, it's all about the lessons he taught me. It's like you do a regular radio show, you get people in that way, you're entertaining, and then you tell them, this is why we're here. We're here to raise money for Coats for Kids. We're here to fill the truck for Providence House. The lessons that he had in radio, and he always said, I'm an unconventional radio host, this, that, and the other thing. He can say that, and he's right. He was right. He was unconventional. But he knew it so well. Like you said, Seth, he knew exactly what the audience wanted. He knew how to bring them in. He knew how to keep them there. And he just knew entertainment. And his voice resonates throughout this city. I hear it all the time.
Absolutely.
He was a legend, man. He's the voice of Cleveland.
Well, yeah. We appreciate you coming on. I know you had to go watch the Guardians game, dude.
Hey, 2-1, a big home run by Kyle Manzardo. And that's the other thing. You talk about Dr. Baseball. That was Triv. And anytime I hosted, Indians warm up or whatever it was called, those are some of my favorite memories with him. Just taking him into a studio, before the Triv show started and talking baseball with Triv.
Absolutely.
And obviously, Seth, some of our other best memories, and you got down there, I think, a couple times, but most of the times you were stuck running the board. But to be with him and John Adams, may he rest in peace, Amen. At Progressive Field. I've got pictures with them, and Paul Dolan, Mark Shapiro, Tom Hamilton, who is, You gotta hear Tom Hamilton off the air sometime.
Off the air, yeah.
What a great broadcaster, but what a character off the air too. Tom was great. Just to be, 2016, that World Series run. One of the things, he was so superstitious. Like we had to get the same nachos during the show before every game. And, just stuff like that. It's like the days of Dirty Kurt. Like when Eric Wedge was asking, is Dirty Kurt on the board today? The impact that he had talking to Terry Francona every week. I got to talk to Terry Francona every week, when I was with the Triv show. So just things that I'll never forget and never experience again. It's all thanks to Triv and, the faith that he showed in me.
Yep. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Glenn.
Yeah.
You were a huge part of that era of Triv. So we thank you.
Great talking to you guys. Great to see you guys. Good to see Billy Fisher as well.
Right back at you, Glenn.
Go see him in Vegas, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, come on out.
We'll make a road trip, Glenn. We can get away from our wives and kids and go for a road trip.
That's right.
That's not a bad idea.
Telling you.
I like that.
Sorry.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Good to see you guys. Thanks to everybody
for
tuning in, and thanks to everybody who listened to Triv throughout the years. And we love you more than you'll know.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yep. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, that was
that was good.
that
man.
was awesome. So
we got
Billy
Billy
Fisher calling in
Hey.
from Vegas.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How's the
How are
weather
you?
out there?
Oh, the weather's a little bit chilly. It's like in the early 80s, like the.
Yeah. It was 47 here today, Billy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But it wasn't raining, right? You had some nice weather sun-wise, or was it cloudy?
Today was a little bit sunny. It wasn't too bad. The past couple of days have been rainy and crappy, and actually there was some snow mix the other night. So you're not missing anything here, my friend.
No, not at all. I'm coming back first part of December, so
Well,
I just
that's
hope
not very
it
bright.
stays- I hope it
Yeah.
stays that temperature, like what you're talking about now.
So how are things out there?
Oh, things are wonderful. I mean, it's amazing what being with Triv and then where I'm at now is, and I owe a lot to Triv because of it. Let me tell you. I mean, just from way back when I first met him. I don't know if you want to, I could start from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
But originally, I was in the trades as a pipe cover insulator, and I had a full beard, long hair, and I used to listen to Triv all the time, working certain jobs. A lot of us guys did. And when I was driving home, he was talking about Frankie Valli, or not Frankie Valli, Macy Gray's version of the national anthem and how terrible it was, right?
Yep.
So I get home and I call up the radio station. I got through Goldman, and it's either Goldman or Big Daddy at the time. And I said, well, I can sing the national anthem. So I got through, and he goes, go ahead, punk. He always would. I swear he called me punk, because
Yes.
I started singing the national anthem for him. And he says, what are you doing? I don't know if it was the next day or that weekend, but the turkey giveaway down at the old municipal stadium, coats for kids, you drop off a coat, we'll give you a turkey. Big truck used to be down there, and he was broadcasting live, and he says, come on, you can sing the national anthem to open up our show at 3:00. Now, mind you, I was in the trades, and you don't get paid if you don't work. But I took off that day. I'm like, you're darn tootin'. I want to go down there and do that for you. And that's when I first met Triv. I brought my young kids down with me and my ex-wife at the current, my wife at the time, ex-wife. So I sang the national anthem at 3:00, and that's when I first met him. And he goes, you want to stick around and do it at 4:00? Sure. So I know Linda was there at the time. I never met Linda. I'm bummed because of that, but that's when I met Triv singing the national anthem, right, on the radio, and then with opening up the show a couple of times. Then I didn't see him again for probably 5 years. That's when he was talking about Frankie Valli, and I called up again and says, I can sing Frankie Valli. Go ahead. So that's when I broke into Sherry. He put me on hold at that time. His son Mikey opened up, had his restaurant. I'm not sure how long it was open up at that time. That was in 2009 or 8 or something like that. And I sang Sherry for Mike on the air, Mikey. And hold on, get his number. And next thing you know, I'm getting a call from Junior about possibly doing a gig that weekend. I didn't have any tracks. I wasn't a track singer. I was in a band as a lead vocalist. I was doing all kinds of stuff with other people, but I wasn't doing anything on my own.
Yeah.
So Triv live on air said, "Oh, he's chickening out." He called his son up and goes, "Oh, he's chickening out, huh?" And I heard that. I'm listening. I'm like, "No, I'm not. I just don't have anything to do it with." So I actually rented a karaoke system for $100 to do that gig that following Saturday. And Junior at the time said, "What do you want?" I said, "Not to just feed my girlfriend at the time, my fiance." Yeah, I wasn't married yet, but I had Elaine was with me, my current one. And so I did that show. I did the gig that night on a Saturday, and I've been there ever since. That day is when I rented for a whole year a karaoke system at $100 a pop, just to do that. And because of that, though, I became my own who I am now. As far as that vocal impressionist, I like to call myself, imitate the artist. I used to like to sing like the artist when I sang with bands and everybody I was with, but I never penned myself that till I started working on the songs that I sang. And that was all because of doing it at Triv's every weekend. It was phenomenal. And I thank Mikey Jr. for just allowing that to happen. What a pain in the ass it was for him, I would imagine. His dad's, saying, "Hey, get him in there." And I'll always be grateful. And then when we started the benefit, he asked me if I'd like to be a part of his benefit. I was tickled pink. My very first band I was in was a band called Lost Children. And quick story, we all grew up from broken homes, basically. So we came up with the name Lost Children, but we wanted to put another spin on it. So we donated a portion of our proceeds to children's charities. And we did that for 7 years. We were together. We were incorporated, never made a dime because we took loans out for new equipment, a truck, and we never made a dime, but we gave it back to charities, local charities. I wasn't big on United. What's the big charities that are out there that are national? I'm not big on it. I wanted the local charities, and that's what we donated to. So that fit me well. When Triv asked me to be a part of it, at that time I was part of a band called Geese Cats. They were a doo-wop group. The drummer wanted no part of it. And I said, "Well, I'm doing it regardless." And it wasn't long before I was out of that band. I got fired from that band. Wow. Because I was doing solo stuff. So anyways, best move I ever made. I mean, decision that they made, because it enabled me to do that, to be a part of the benefit every year in that Las Vegas type of setting. When I moved out here to Vegas, I walked right into it. I mean, right away, I got introduced to a guy that was putting on shows at one of the casinos, and it was a variety type of show. You had a comedian, you had a girl singer, you had a group, and I walked right into it, and I felt so comfortable, so at home, and it was Las Vegas. And he didn't want me to move. Triv says, "What are you moving there for?" It was right during when October 1st happened, 2017 is the October 1st shootings happened. And that was in October, and I was leaving that month or later that the next month, October or November. And he didn't want me to go. And sure enough, when I moved out there, I would still get the text, but this time at 4 a.m, wake up, because the time changed. It was 3 hours difference. I'm sleeping. And he's texting me, it's, his 7 a.m., but my 4 a.m. Wake up. What are you doing? I'm sleeping. And my wife wanted to kill him, let me tell you. And would you shut up that phone?
Yeah, they were bad enough when they were like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I can only imagine what they were like for you out there.
Oh,
yeah.
And when I left, I told him when I left, I said, "You keep doing these benefits, I'll keep coming back to be a part of it." And I did. And obviously no one got paid to do any of the benefits. And when I flew back, it was on my dime, because there's no way I was going to ask for anything, because that's not what charity to me still is about. You know what I mean? You do it on your dime, and that's the gratitude you get. What you get out of it is what you see of the people that you're doing it for, and how they just can't believe you're doing that. I mean, that to me is the best feeling in the world.
I mean, Triv always had run-ins with people, as we all know, and even with some of the benefit stuff that happened. I mean, you know all the stuff that went behind the scenes, but
yeah.
he never had an issue with you and always just loved the hell out of you. And it was so great when he would mess with you and put out the milk cartons at the benefit for you to stand on. And like, it was just that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was such. I mean, he always just got a kick out of you and just asked you to come out to some of the parking lot events we did so you could sing out there. It was just great. And
I would do it in a heartbeat. I had a day job, but I had time to kill. Anytime he wanted anything to be done, I took time off and I was there for him because, I probably have 2 pictures of him as far as selfies, maybe. I was never one to do that. I mean, like you mentioned, I believe he was truly a friend.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get emotional because of it. But because he was, and I've listened to that guy forever. And for me to step back and say, wow, I actually know this guy and I'm a friend of his, that blew my mind, but it was no brainer. I mean, it wasn't even an issue. We'd go out to dinner like everybody would. You guys had you were part of the radio, which I listened to all the time. But when it came to off hours, that's when I was part of his life and the benefits and meetings with that. And he'd call me up and want me to, what do you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? He would throw stuff at me. I'm like, okay, I'll learn it. You sure you could? Yeah. I put tracks together of stuff he wanted me to do. My son helped me with it. A lot of stuff I did, man. I busted ass to get that done because Triv wanted it, so I would do it, no matter what it took. And I'm grateful for that because, again, it brought me, again, to where I'm at today out here in Vegas. It's what I've done. I mean, I could keep talking, trust me, about when I moved out here. My wife and I, we drove out here, 6 months of savings, gave our 2-week notices. We both worked for law firms, and we rented a condo online that took 3 cats. I had a buddy that moved us out here. He had a moving and storage company. We rented a little U-Haul to put the rest of our stuff on. Rented had our 3 cats. Took us 4 days to get out here. Found our condo and never looked back. And we both got jobs. She got job in her profession as a payroll person. I got odd jobs. I'm a notary public out here in Vegas. But I started going to all these jam nights. People from Cleveland, like Mike Azzarello, go to the Italian American Club in Las Vegas. Go to this place. I don't know if there used to be a restaurant called Del Sangro's in Brook Park. Brook Park and 130th. That family, the Giuseppe family, moved out to Vegas probably 30 years ago now, and opened up their own restaurant. And when I moved out here, I started performing at their restaurant. And it was like how Triv's in Strongsville was my home away from home. Giuseppe's out here was my Triv's because they took me right in, and I was there every 2 years, every Saturday for 2 years straight before COVID hit. And they treated me just like gold, just like Triv would. And you know what I mean? And because of that, I got involved in a Bee Gees tribute, a Crosby, Stills and Nash tribute, an Eagles, Steve Miller, Doobie Brothers tribute. I've done so many. I was background singer for a few artists here and there. Went to Denver last September as a backup singer and percussion player for a dude named Lanny Counts, who's a tremendous entertainer out here. And he was in a group called Las Vegas Tenors. And I knew he was part of this group. And I said, so what do you guys do? And he goes, hey, they need a sub. So I'm like, okay, that's not why I asked, but okay. So now they're on cruise ships, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. They travel, they're top headliners for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. 3 tenors. And you would think tenor, you're thinking opera. No, they do rock, pop, country, Motown, you name it. It's a medley of 50 minutes worth of stuff. The very last song is an opera song. And I had to learn their parts to just be a sub. And once I learned their parts, they came back home. I sang with them to audition, more or less. They liked what they heard. Royal Caribbean had to approve what they heard. Once that happened, it's been 7 months now. And I kid you not, I was on one cruise with my kids when they were young. Since 7 months ago, I've been on 12 cruises now with the Las Vegas Tenors. And it's I'm in heaven. I mean,
I'll tell you what. I just joined your Facebook page for the Las Vegas Tenors, I believe. So that's awesome. And what it was cool about Triv is that you got to know so many people, and doing the benefits with you. I like to consider you my friend. I know we don't talk all the time, but I keep up with you and what you're doing, and seeing you on those cruise ships is amazing. Your career is fantastic. You're one of the best people and nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. And I mean, my wife and I went out to Vegas. You, through many flight delays, you picked us up from the airport like 3:00 in the morning Vegas time, and took us to our hotel. I mean, knowing Triv enabled me to have friends like you, friends like Joe, and I'm so happy that however my career ends up, that I had that time where I was able to meet you guys.
Well, you know what? I feel the same way. Yeah, we don't talk a lot, but I would do anything for you guys. If you called me up and say, Billy, I need you, I would technically find a way to get there or be a part of whatever it is. If I got to make a phone call, I have a friend that I've known since first grade. Still my best friend to this day. We may not talk, but once every 6 months or maybe a year would pass. But when we do talk, it's like yesterday. And I know you guys might have. I know you have friends like that as well. But that's how I feel you guys are, and anybody connected to Triv that I was close to. You know what I mean? And feel I still am. If they called me, I'll talk and bust balls or whatever you want to do. Yeah,
absolutely. And
I met so many people. Frankie Shinta from the Shintas. I never met him. I never met him in Ohio. I know he was big in Ohio, but he's from Buffalo. I met him out here. He knew of Triv. I guess Triv tried to get him on at one point, but through management, the Shintas couldn't make it, so Triv took it personally. Yeah. But Frankie Shinta told me, man, I wish he would just let me talk to him because it wasn't me. It was my management that canceled. We couldn't do it. Contract, but you know how Triv was. No, I don't care. And I have a lot of Triv in me. Trust me. It's not that I hold grudges, but if somebody crosses me that I really thought was honest and pure, not pure, but nobody's pure, but you know what I mean? I'm done with them. And LeBron, when he left the first time, I had to stop my gig at Triv's in Strongsville so we can watch him live saying, I'm moving my talents to Strongsville or Strongsville to wherever my talents were in Strongsville, and I had to stop because of him. And that pissed me off. I said, never again. I'm not going to be a fan. And when he came back, I wasn't a Cavs fan anymore. And then I'll get political here. Once politics got involved with sports, I stopped. Yeah. I couldn't stand it any longer. And then once Chief Wahoo was gone, that was it. I'm done, and I can't watch it now. God bless Cleveland. Good luck. I hope they make it, but I can't. I'm not like that. And I know Triv wasn't like that. I know he bet on games, and he stayed with it regarding all that stuff. And he may watch it, but he wasn't the fan he used to be either. The players too much into the players. It's not about the team. It's not about winning. You know what I mean? For the team, it's let me catch my pass and do a happy dance because I caught a pass.
I'm rooting for the Guardians only because of Triv at this point, because I know that he wanted to see a championship in this town, and he hated that LeBron was the one to bring one here. And so if anybody is going to do it, I want the Guardians to do it because I know he loved baseball the way.
I like that. And you know so, what? I'm going to keep that same attitude. Yep. That's when
because I hate the politics too, but I love Triv's passion for the game and the passion for the Indians that he had more than I hate the stupid crap behind the scenes.
No, I
can't. Everybody for the Guardians.
Remember when he would always tell Tom Hamilton, "I go to bed with you every night."
Yeah.
If they don't make it, guess what? No longer can be said. There's no longer a curse because of Chief Wahoo or the Indians.
There you go.
Because there's no name. It's a new name, so you can't blame it on no curse because of Chief Wahoo or the Indians. So
when they beat the Lions the Tigers the other night in Game 5, I thought of Triv and John Adams sitting there together, and John's banging on a cloud up there. And they're watching this team try to make it to the World Series, and that's why I'm rooting for those guys.
You're right. I agree with you 100%. And it's great that they have John's drum and a statue of him and stuff. That's awesome. But just like out here, I mean, when the Browns moved back in 99, they left. That killed me. I was an avid Browns fan, season ticket holder when I can afford it. And when they left, I was devastated. I fought so hard to get the colors back. I signed a petition. I volunteered to get names on it. We got it back. The Indians are gone, so that hits me because of that. But now the Raiders are here in Las Vegas. Never was a Raiders fan. I still think eventually they're going to change the name, even though they got a nice new stadium. And you know who's moving here now, too, baseball-wise? The Oakland A's.
Oh, the A's. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
They tore
Oakland
down
doesn't deserve a sports team.
Right. They tore down the Tropicana that's been around since the 50s to put in a new stadium for the Oakland A's. And I really feel that they should change the name and call it Las Vegas something, rather than move a name. You know what I mean? I know there's some teams that still have names, or is there anymore? I mean, you know what I mean?
The Colts used to be the Baltimore Colts.
Yeah, so they're still in. Yeah, correct. But it's few far in between, but I don't know. I'm old school, and that to me, I feel is Triv. That's why I always like Triv. And he's such a stickler in the way he's just, I don't care, man. This is how I feel, and that's how I am. I think he was a Libra, like I am. And
Look, Jake's still contributing. The Las Vegas Aces.
Yes, Las Vegas Aces. They had a championship. The Las Vegas the hockey team. They won a championship.
Golden Knights.
Golden Knights, yes.
Yeah.
So
where'd they come from?
What's that?
What city did they come from, or were they an expansion?
No, they were brand new. No, we got a franchise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, hockey's big here. The Las Vegas Aces, they won a championship, the women's basketball team. And next is going to be NBA, because they just had a summer team out here. The Warriors were playing the Lakers, as a what is it, the summer league going on, or preseason? Yeah. So they're in town doing that. But guys, come out, man. Anytime.
Real quick, before we let you go, my wife and I have been talking about places to move. Originally, we thought Vegas, then we thought Florida, because I like going to Disney and stuff like that. But then they get hit with hurricanes. What's the affordability of living in Vegas? Is it really expensive everywhere, or is it just if you're outside the Strip, are you okay?
Yeah, well, right now it's crazy everywhere. Don't get me wrong. Of course. You know what's beautiful, and Seth, I think this would suit you. Boulder City. Boulder City is only seriously less than a half hour away. It's from where I live, from the Strip, and it's just another city. But it's beautiful, old school, small town. It's by Lake Mead. It's more laid back. But again, you can get to the Strip in a half an hour's time. It's beautiful, and yes, it's more affordable there, and it's just a beautiful community. A city within its. I mean, it's when you're there, you don't think that Vegas is a half hour away. Let's put it that way. And it's so I would suggest
that. I'm going to look into that. And I got to get a scooter though. Like I got to get like one of those motorized scooters, because I can't walk Vegas now the way that I used to be able to walk Vegas.
No.
With one leg, I'm kind of screwed. So I'm going to have to get a little scooter and tool around in the town like that. But maybe we'll see you sooner than I thought. So.
Yeah, please. I don't go down to the Strip unless somebody comes out. Just because I got so many other things going on. So I'm not scheduled. I should have been gone already in Aruba, and then we were headed to Spain. I was going to be gone 27 days straight. But the guy in my group, he broke his arm. So we're on hold for about a month. But long story, I pushed him into a guardrail. No, he was helping me. I left my phone in an Uber. We were supposed to get back to the ship. The guy was Chinese, the driver, so we were translating in Chinese, texting to get my phone back. I ended up getting back, but in the haste of things, he went to move too quick and went into a guardrail and broke his arm. And
wow.
So a nice guy. I mean, I love this group. I'm so grateful, and I can't believe living the dream. It wasn't moving to Vegas. Living the dream is what I'm doing on cruise ships, because a buddy of mine out of high school I went to rock and roll way, grew my hair out. He went to musical theater and did like Cedar Point, Jogga Lake singing. Because of that, he got onto cruise ships, and I always kind of envy that. So I am finally living my dream by being on cruise ships, entertaining with the Las Vegas Tenors. Please like our Las Vegas Tenors page on Facebook. We have 2 different groups, like them both. We are now on TikTok, well, Instagram as well, but TikTok, there's a 30-second song of us singing Lonesome Loser by Little River Band as a promo. We put it on TikTok 3 days ago. It has 45,000 hits already.
That's awesome.
So it's a great group, and I'm just so fortunate to be a part of. Joe Burdick, thank you so much for doing this. And I know I got a flag there that I've been waiting, hush hush on who it's for, but the flag that you bought me, I have here, or that you bought me, that I bought off you, that you did for me with over 100-year-old wood. Loving it, beautiful. And
you.
I appreciate that, man.
Where do you look up the TikTok?
What's that?
Where do you look up the TikTok?
What's the name on the TikTok?
The Las Vegas Tenors.
All right.
Yeah, and then I have my little Billy Fisher page, my own page on Facebook. When I go live on the ship, I go to that page because I have to videotape and take pictures that way, because your phone can only take so much stuff, and I got to remember what the hell I actually experienced, because I'm hoping Facebook's going to last forever like cockroaches, and my grandkids will see it way down the future, so.
Well, you know what I said earlier, when Triv liked somebody, you knew it. And obviously Triv really appreciated you and liked you, he always wanted you at all of his stuff. So
I told him
his like for you was genuine.
You know what? I told him I'd never be a pain in the ass, and I never was. Whatever he went backstage, when we were in the green room, I would always look for him and say, okay, what's that? Because, Seth, obviously, you have a schedule of what's going on, but hell no, that never happened.
Never happened.
So you can't rely on that. Certain individuals relied on that. They took advantage of that, and they were there for the wrong reasons, is all I can say. And you can't do that, man. So I was always there and ready to go, whatever trips, wanted to do. If we were running behind, I would tell them out front, cut my song. I don't need to do it. What else do you need? You want me to go run and get something? You want me to be, help Seth? I gladly would be behind the scenes as a runner doing something than be on stage, because that's what it was about for these charity events. And I'll do that anytime.
Greatly appreciate that, and greatly appreciate you coming on tonight. So,
all right, man. Hey, thank you. Man, 3rd anniversary of Triv. It seems like, really does seem like yesterday when I got the call. Yep, and and like you, I think about the guy every time. Not a day goes by that I don't think about him. Matter of fact, real quick, see this microphone right here? This is a 1950s original Shure microphone, crooner's mic, that he gave me within a couple years after I met him, because he, I was a singer, and he saw the one that I had, and a fan gave him that, but he didn't, he wanted to pay it forward. Like, what is he going to do with it? Yeah, it's a microphone, but I'm the singer, and he talks through a different mic. Anyhow, I'll never depart, and it works. Awesome. And I'll never use it. I use it in the house, but I'll never use it because it'll always remind me of him, amongst all kinds of other things that I have of his.
I hear you, man.
Memorabilia.
Well, thanks, Billy. We will talk to you soon, I'm sure. I'm going to be following your TikTok. I know Jake just did. So we will talk to you soon, and definitely be following you, my friend.
All right. Love you guys. Give a kiss to everybody. And man, your daughter, she's a woman, unbelievable, growing quick. So enjoy. Both of you guys. Obviously, Joe, your kids are already adults. So,
it happens too fast.
I got 3 grandchildren, and I didn't have that when I moved to Vegas. So unbelievable. So enjoy life. That's all we can do.
Hey, so when you come home, are you going to be playing at Triv's?
No, I'm coming home just to see the grandkids and family, because as soon as I get back to Vegas, I'm gone from the 2nd week of December all the way into the new year on cruise ships. So I just got to be ready and prepared for that, because there's a lot of stuff we sing that I got to sing way up high.
Well, tell Elaine we said hello too. So
I will. All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Love you.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Billy
We don't have anybody on deck.
One of the best. He's one of the best.
Oh my God, I know. So I might as well tell my story. I'm hoping we can get Billy Morris. I know Billy's been trying to get on.
Oh, look, Billy Morris is. Maybe you should ask his wife to get him on because like she's the woman or the brains behind the operation when it comes to Billy Morris. I mean, she does everything. She builds the studio. She does all kind of stuff. She's the one making all the money in that joint. All that guy does is plug in a little guitar and try to play with the kids every now and then. And he's going to sit there and he can't figure out how to get on the show.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, Tammy, I wish we're talking, but I hope you're doing well.
So I want to tell my story with Triv. So since we haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
What's that?
I just said miss you, Tammy.
Yeah. So it was actually kind of cool. Obviously I make the flags. And when I knew that the Coats for Kids was coming up and Triv was looking for, ways to make money, I wanted to help. And I reached out to you guys at the station and I told you what I do. And you put me in touch with Triv. I think I even talked to you.
Yes,
so I got in touch. You got me, you got Triv my information and I really wanted to help. And I remember you guys were at the show was coming up in Twinsburg and I brought a flag out and Triv put me on the radio and I could tell right away that he liked it. And, the next day that night, the night of the show was, I guess it was such a success. I wasn't there for that. And, I got a call.
I think I know your story better than you do, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, the behind the scenes stuff, but then I get the phone call. Hey, can you, Triv really liked the flag. Can you bring another one? Can you do another one tomorrow? And I'm like, well, I have this event that I'm doing tomorrow all day. I can't get there until later. And then you guys were like, that's okay. So I rushed home. I can't remember what city I was in. It was somewhere by I don't know, Akron or something like that. But I rushed home and I had a flag that was pretty much ready to go. And I'm like, okay, so I come home. I wore the same clothes I wore all day. I come flying down there. I bring the flag and I remember you guys were all backstage, the band, Billy Moore. I'm like, oh my God, I'm meeting Billy Morris. And there was some woman and in the band or whatever performing. So I bring the flag. You guys are all back there. Carmen, I meet Triv again and he's like, okay, come on, let's go. And you guys take me right to the stage and I'm standing on stage. I remember there's Triv, there's Billy. I take a picture with Billy backstage and, I was like, oh my God, Billy Morris is like a legend around here. So, I'm back there. I still have that picture, but I'm backstage. Triv brings me up and I'm like Vanna White up there holding my flag and, the auction's going on. And I was like, this is awesome. Anything I could do to help raise money. Well, that was when the relationship with Triv started. And I could tell that he liked what I did, because of the flags and, how I helped raise money. And I remember when I was coming off the stage too, a guy said, hey, he didn't win the flag, but he says, I'll give $1,000 to Coats for Kids right now if you'll make me one of those flags. And I'm like, hell yeah, done. So I actually donated 3 flags that night. I made another flag for the guy, but he wrote the check out to Coats for Kids. But then I remember Tammy, his wife, reached out to me. She wanted, this was during COVID. I started doing those wavy flags and I was new at the wavy flags. I didn't really know what I was doing, but she wanted a blue line flag for Triv for Christmas. I think it was. And so I met with Tammy, I got her the flag. And Triv, now I don't know the conversation behind the scenes, but he had to have loved it so much that him and Mortosh were talking. That's when they were planning on the, to honor the police departments. And the stories he's told me was he was sick and tired of how cops were being treated. And he wanted to show his appreciation to the cops. and he loved that blue line flag. So he called me one day and he's like, "Hey, would you be interested in, working with, me and Billy Morris and Mortosh honoring the police departments?" He's like, "We're going to provide lunch to the cops and I want to provide one of those blue line flags." And I'm like, "Sure. How big do you want it?" And he's like, 4 feet. Not a little guy, but he wanted the 4-footer. Actually, in the background in my picture, that's one of the 4-foot wavy flags. And I'm like, "Hell yeah, Triv, whatever you need, I'm there." And in the last 2 years of his life, so we ended up doing 52 police departments in 2 years.
Yeah,
Triv made it to almost every. Yeah, Triv made it to almost every one. And he, we gave him those blue line flags, and it was so amazing for me to watch him because he was so genuine. It wasn't shtick. He wasn't making money. This wasn't something he was doing to promote himself in any way. It was to show love to these cops. And when we would go to these departments, these guys, these cops, these firefighters, they wanted to be next to Triv. They wanted to shake his hand. They wanted to thank him for what he was doing. And I was just Joe Schmo, just making the flags. But Triv wanted to make it about me and, me doing this for them. And I'm like, man, I'm just honored to be, doing something that Triv asked me to do. I just remember a couple of stories I have. So I remember we were at North Royalton Police Department, and Peggy Gallick shows up.
Oh, I remember.
And
I was there.
Yeah. So I'm standing there next to Triv, and I'm like, "Hey, Triv, check it out. The media is finally here to do a story on this." And he's like, "Joe, they're not here for us." And I'm like, "No." So Peggy Gallick, and maybe I shouldn't have used her name and throw her under the bus, but she was there. There was a shooting, and she was there to I don't know, to find out what happened in this shooting. So she walks to the department, whatever. She comes back out. She walks right past Billy's food truck. She walks past all of us. She doesn't stop to say hi to Triv, which he was right. She didn't stop to buy lunch for herself just to contribute to, for these cops. Nothing. She doesn't say a word to any of these cops. And I was like, damn, Triv, you were right. And he's like, and then somebody like ran across the parking lot to tell her, "Hey, here's what they're doing over here. And, you should come over." And she never stopped. And I remember one time I asked Triv, I said, "Hey, Triv, I can't believe the media doesn't come and, broadcast about this." And he's like, "Really? You can't believe it?" And I'm like, man, you know what? He's right. The media didn't care that all of us were out there doing this stuff, for these cops. And I remember another time, it's so funny. We were in Solon. Why I remember these departments, I have no idea. But so I was talking to a cop that I knew in Richmond Heights, and she was saying, "Oh my God, I love the Triv show. I hope you guys can make it out here. We love Triv out here." And I was talking to Triv, and the funny thing was I was talking about a t-shirt that I bought that made you look like you had muscles, but it was for a fat guy like me, but it looked like 6-pack abs. And he's like, "I need to get one of those." But, and Colin was there that day, but, I told Triv about the conversation that I had with the Richmond Heights cop. And it was the first time I ever heard him do it in person. He just looks over and he's like, "Seth." And then he must have told you to get Richmond Heights on the list. Well, damn it. The next week we were in Richmond Heights doing lunch for the Richmond Heights Police Department. And, those guys, they loved it so much. But, I knew, and I always felt like a Johnny come lately, contributor or whatever I was with the show. But I could tell, age difference didn't matter. I felt like Triv liked me, and he believed in my little company. And, he would bring me on the radio, especially at Christmas time, for like almost like 3 years in a row, just talking about me and my business. And I'm like, Triv, you don't have to do that. I can't afford this, this advertisement. He's like, I want to talk about you, Joe. And I really love that. And, I owed so much stuff to Triv, where if Triv was going to call and ask me to do something, I was going to do it. Coach for kids, Triv, whatever you need, I'm there for you. And I remember the last department we did, it was like, I don't know, Mayfield Heights or Lyndhurst or whatever it was. And he's like, it was the last department that we did, for in 2021 or whatever. It was the last one of the year, but it was kind of funny. Once everything was done, Triv was like, he's like, hey, we have a charity thing. I think it was supposed to be in May or something. He's like, save the date. We're doing a thing in May, and it was a Travis Mills thing. And I believe it was May. Maybe it was March. I don't know. I can't remember now. It was 3 years ago, but he's like, I know you're not going to remember the day, but I'll have Seth call you. And I'm like, okay, Triv, whatever you need, I'm in. So he was so philanthropic. He was so genuine about donating his time and his voice and anything he could. And he really loved Travis Mills. So I was so honored to be part of that, I was looking forward to helping, raise money for Travis. And, and then like a month later, I got, I was listening to the radio, and, I heard, that he passed away. I mean, I was blown away, and I know, obviously his family first, but you guys that were with him every single day, I can't imagine what it was like for you guys. I mean, and you and I have talked, you and I have talked a lot, and obviously you guys were all affected, but Jake knows what day that was, May 26th. But yeah, I was absolutely shocked. And, and we ended up having that charity anyway in Triv's honor. And, that's what you were talking about, that person that painted that painting for you, Christy Dubinsky from Pennsylvania. They presented that. She did the painting for Triv. And I remember we all went up on stage and we did a toast to Triv on stage. And I've got this great picture of me and Billy holding up, what was it, Johnny Walker Blue or something like that, which that stuff, that was horrible. But, I'm so proud to have a small part in, he was a legend, and I'm just honored to have this small part in his life at the end of his life. And, it was amazing for me.
Look, I could talk stories about Triv all day long. I mean, we could be on here until tomorrow morning, but
I got time.
I don't.
I know,
but I know how Triv felt about me in a way that, I don't think that he knew that I knew. I know that there were a lot of times where he didn't like me. And I know there were times where he didn't want me on his fucking show. And I don't care. I was able to learn from him. I was able to see him in action, and it made me proud to be part of that show.
Right.
And there were times where, you felt like you were friends, and, he had a way of making you feel that way. Going to breakfast with him on Sunday mornings at Goldie's in Strongsville. And, we still have a group of people that go up there still. Obviously things get away sometimes, but we still meet up there at least once or twice a month at least.
I never got invited to Goldie's.
And on Sunday mornings. And so, it was always great. It was fantastic. We love it. And again, I still meet with people there, and we still talk about him all the time. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think about that guy. I mean, when I was in Vegas, my wife and I were in Vegas, we got stranded there, and, Spirit Airlines kept dicking us over. And then next thing you know, Triv, and his lovely wife paid for us to come home. Now, it was probably more his wife than it was him, but
that
still.
was good radio, though, too.
It was great radio. And I remember I got back and I had done the show from the airport like a couple of days, just sitting there in lines at the airport after getting canceled numerous times. And Ray Davis said to me, "You're going to have to use extra vacation days." I said, "I was on the show the entire time that I was out there. Even on my fucking vacation, I was sitting on the phone in the hotel room on the show." I said, "I'm not going to let you take vacation days from me." And they didn't. But there are a lot of ways that over the years I got to know him better. I know how much he loved Goldman. I know how much he loved, certain people. And a lot of times I wasn't one of them. But I learned a ton, and I respected the man like nobody's business. I respected him for what he accomplished in the business that I love. I respected him for giving me an opportunity. I respected him for talking to me on the weekends, like I said earlier, and just spending an hour with me on the phone. I respected him for sitting there and smoking cigarettes with me and checking the temperature on a day-to-day basis. I loved him for taking me out to Triv's restaurant before the show would start. We'd go and have lunch together and make fun of Carmen or whatever we were doing. Sometimes he'd pick me up at the station. We'd just go up to Dairy Queen and get ice cream. And, a couple of older dudes like me and Triv sitting in the car going to get waffle cones was entertaining to me. And it made him more of a person than just the guy that you saw and heard on the radio.
Right.
The day that he died, I will put up there with, of course, my mother passing, me losing my leg, and I don't know if there's anything more devastating than that day. And there's not a day that goes by where I don't think about him. Now, I work for a great guy now in Bob France, and we get along, and he does a great show, in my opinion. And I'm blessed to be where I'm at today, but I think I learned a lot on how to do the job better for Bob because of what, Triv gave to me. And I'll never forget that day that he passed. And I'll never forget just thinking, not just what's next for me, but what's next for all these people that he knew. His wife, of course, his family, but the listeners, the people that were part of those benefits, the people that were part of all that he had. It was over. And I think a lot of people didn't know how to react. I think a lot of people have reacted differently than I would have. It was a family of not only, people that worked with him or his family, but the listeners were family. And it was all over. And I don't think it'll ever be replaced. Not with the Joker that they have now. I don't think it'll ever be replaced in this town, ever.
No.
I don't think that station will ever be the same. I think that there were people behind the scenes that didn't want him to keep doing what he was doing, but he was so beneficial to them for making money, and he was so beneficial to this city that they couldn't get rid of him. But I will miss that guy forever. And I don't know that my career will ever be the same or ever be as good as it was when I was working on that show. Saw a lot of great things, met a lot of great people, and it was impactful to me. And so I appreciate him for that.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, like I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it was such an honor to get to know him a little bit, just a little bit. In the last few years, I was just a listener. I always thought, hey, I'm just Joe, I'm nobody special, but I tell you what, he made me feel special. And then when I listened to him on the radio, I was so proud to have a little bit of, Triv, not the radio guy, but Triv, the guy. And he's a legend in Cleveland, and we can't, I don't know. It's so upsetting to me that it seems like TAM is going out of their way to erase, that he was even there. So it's upsetting for me as a guy that knew him a little bit, but I can only imagine his legions of fans that, you know, we'd love to hear what he has to say right now, you know, what's going on in our world right now, or, you know, with the Indians, or whatever, you know, like Jake said, you know, it, it's just a shame how, you know, what's going on with the station, and how it went, and, you know, how you were treated. You're not going to say it, but I will, you know, how you were treated on the way out. And, you know, I'm honored that you and I are friends, and, you know, like you said, you could tell who was genuine when all this stuff happened. You know,
Hey, look, I'll say it. I was treated like garbage when I was fired from there. They promised me a job. I mean, it was kind of bullshit to be telling me that when, you know, I just lost not only our host, but our friend, right, a legend. And they were telling me, "Oh, don't worry, you have a job. You have a job. Don't worry, everything's fine." And they told me that throughout the entire hiring process that they went through to hire this guy. And then oh yeah, you have a job. And then they fired me. And then I lost my leg, and the station refused to do anything to even help me out. They refused to promote the GoFundMe page that was set up by, you know, listeners and friends of Triv. They refused to promote the thing, an event that Billy Morris did for me to try to help me and my family because I had no insurance, no nothing. They refused to do anything for me. And so there's no love lost there. That's for damn sure. And I have no problem saying it. Right. But, and the way that they erased him from, you know, from that station is a crime. And the fact that they still use him when it benefits them for charities or whatever it is also a crime. You know, when the ratings suck and they want to pull out another clip of Triv, is a crime.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't want him there. You erased all this stuff when he was gone, and you go back to trying to use him even still to this day. It kind of irritates me. But, you know, it is what it is. It's the business, and life moves on. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've met a lot of cops in those 52 departments that we went to, and a lot of cops in departments we never made it to. And they all love Triv, and they remember me from doing that. And, you know, you and I and Billy, we've talked over, I really wish we could have got Billy and some of the other guys, Rado and some of the other guys on, but
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to continue this on the 30th on my show. So I'm going to invite you to be on there as well.
Okay.
And then we'll try to get some of those guys on that show as well. So, you know, we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I've met so many cops that, first of all, appreciated so much what Triv did. Now this was during all that COVID bullshit scare where everybody was afraid to go anywhere. And I know that the station, just from what he would say, they didn't want him going to that because of the whole COVID, and he was there anyway, you know, but these cops appreciated that. And you and Billy and I have talked about trying to carry on that legacy. And I know we've done a couple of departments, you know, since Triv's passing, but these departments, man, I wish we could figure out a way to do something or find a sponsor that would sponsor this so we can, in Triv's honor, continue honoring these departments, because, man, he loved doing it, and and going out in shitty weather and during COVID, and, you know, honoring these departments.
And I went out to another Coach for Kids event. I think you were there, right?
Yeah. We all sat at the same table.
And but it was nothing like, you know, it used to be. And, you know, it was still fun. I had a great time. I thought they raised a good amount of money for Coach for Kids, and had a great time seeing everybody from Coach for Kids, and you and Jake was there, and it was a lot of fun.
Debbie,
but nothing will ever beat those nights, and nothing will ever replace him. And
no,
it's sad, but, you know, again, life does move on. But it's our goal and our duty, I think, to keep remembering him and to kind of keep his legacy alive. So hopefully we can figure something out. But I think today was good. I think it's good to never forget, and I certainly won't.
Well, I'm a firm believer that if you say somebody's name and you put it out there in the stratosphere, there's still a little part of their memory that they're alive. And I wanted to bring people like you, obviously, but people that knew him way better than me that could come on here and maybe tell a couple of funny stories or how they met. It was nice having Billy Fisher on and Glenn and all those guys coming on here because Triv deserves this. He deserves to have somebody, to have a tribute for him and talk about these things. He never would write a book about his experience. Could you imagine what that book would have looked like if he did? Oh my God. But I'm just a firm believer that, people we can't forget what first of all, what he's done for our community, and how he was to all of us,
No doubt.
So, I mean, I miss the guy. I only knew him for like 3 or 4 years, but I thought it was awesome. And I remember when I was younger, I dated a girl and her family lived in Solon, and we went to Solon and we went to Mid Pines, his driving range, and he threw me out of there. And I told him about that, and he's like, I remember that. And I'm like, there's no way you remember that. But he threw me out of there because I came walking in with my muddy feet all the way across the floor up to the counter, and he saw my muddy feet, and it looked like remember those old dance steps when you learn how to dance? That's what it looked like on his floor. And he threw my ass out of there because I muddied up his place. He's like, I swear I remember that, Joe. And I'm like, there's no way you remember. But it was funny that one of the guys said, he brought up that driving range. I'm actually building a house for somebody in Signature of Solon right now. So I think about Triv every friggin' day. Every friggin' day I go in. And plus, to get to work, I drive down past Oak Tree Boulevard every single day.
Now my new job is right across the street from there. So
yep.
It's pretty amazing how and I'm working with somebody that he used to work with. So it's kind of cool for me. It's kind of cool for me to, still drive the same way that I drove to work and still talk to a guy that he used to work with. And it feels, I'm happy with the way things have turned out for me. So
I am too.
But I'm happy. So
yeah, I am too. After the thing with your leg, I mean, I was cheering for you. I was rooting for you and hoping something like this would happen. And then boom, here you are. I get to hear you on the radio almost every single day. So,
God has a plan. God has a plan, my friend.
That's right. And I think he wants to keep you here in Cleveland, not Florida or Vegas. Vegas is hot.
Yeah, but I don't like the snow.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
Trevor and I used to talk about it all the time when we're outside. It'd be like 68 and partly cloudy, and he would say, I'll take 365 of these.
So how did you guys come up with that, just going out to check the temperature? Because that was friggin' hilarious every time you said it.
To say he's going out to smoke. Sounds better than him going to check the temperature.
That's hilarious. The shtick you guys had was so funny.
There was one day it was the best. We were out. We'll have to wrap this up. We'll have to continue with more guests on another day. But there was one day that it was so funny. We're outside, we're smoking, and it was hot as hell, man. It was the kind of day where like the asphalt sticks to your freaking shoes, and so it was really boiling hot outside. And we're standing on this little island with the mulch in the parking lot. And Triv, we're out there smoking. I looked down at Triv's feet, and there was a fucking fire there. And I'm like, Triv, man, you lit the mulch on fire. And so now you could see this flame just shooting out of the ground from where he was ashing his cigarette. And he's like, go get a cup of water. I was like, dude, getting a cup of water isn't going to do anything. I got to run all the way the hell upstairs, take the elevator, get a cup of water, come back down here. And it's like, all right, let's go upstairs. And we go upstairs, and we let this flame just sitting there. Next thing you know, there were like 6, 7, 8 flames shooting out of this island of mulch. The whole thing is starting to light on fire. And next thing you know, you see the maintenance people from the building come down, and they got buckets, and they're dragging a hose from outside from the building, and they're spraying this entire thing down. And of course, we got blamed for it. And I was like, it wasn't us. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, he lit the entire island of mulch on fire with a cigarette. But we always had a good time. It was always fun.
You know, it was great radio, and you could tell, you know, you're going to drive. I don't care who it is. You know, if you work with somebody long enough, you become family, and there's going to be days when you hate them and more days when you love them. So it's easy to get on your nerves, on somebody's nerves when you're important to them, I guess. So, but you got, it was such great radio with you guys, man. It was so fun listening to you and, you know, and even Carmen. So, yeah,
Miss those days and always will. But
yeah, I know. It's nice too that when you can find something like that online and just listen to it. I downloaded a couple of conversations that, you know, when he had me on there. So, man, I miss that voice. I got, I don't know if you can hear it. I know we got to wrap it up. I don't know if you can hear this, but sorry. Sorry. Can you hear that?
That's awesome.
Yeah. I tried to trim it so it just had him yelling at you, but you're on there going, sorry.
I still have one of the first voicemails he ever sent me when I got hired.
Oh yeah.
On my phone. So it's pretty cool sometimes
awesome
to listen to. But Joe, I thank you for doing this, man.
Yeah, and listen, we've had it's showing on here that 10 people have pretty much been watching this the entire time. And thank you to anybody that watched this. You know, you're obviously a Triv fan, and you know, this was, you know, for you guys, you know, as much as it was for us. So Seth, you know, thank you for taking this serious and doing this with me and spending 2.5 hours with me. You know, I love you, buddy. You know, you're a friend, you and the family. So
absolutely,
yeah, I'm looking. Man. Yeah, and I'll talk to you again soon.
We will talk soon, and like I said, I'm trying to plan a part 2, so we'll see what happens. But thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. All right, I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, man.
All right, bye. You there?